Welcome to the Faith Talks Wood podcast. I'm Will from Fly Woodworks.
And I'm Tom from Mountain Valley Maker.
And we talk about a little bit of everything from Jesus to joinery and lots of stuff in between. So, Tom, I'm going to let you kind of start this one off because you had a bit of a kerfuffle right before we hit record on here. So what's going on in the Watkins farm?
Man, I tell you what, I realize that people listening to the podcast can't tell that we started 20 minutes late because, man, them daggone fox, buddy. We have had hawks attack our chickens. We've had fox, we've had skunks, but man, the fox, they just keep coming back, man. And tonight, you know, it's getting darker a little earlier, and I was in the kitchen filling up my water bottle to come out here and get ready for the podcast. And all of a sudden, we see a bunch of our chickens up on our porch, and we're like, my wife's like, it's dark. Why aren't they in the pen? Why are all the chickens? Well, we went out there and there were feathers everywhere. So we lost 3 chickens to a fox tonight. So frustrating, man. Frustrating. But because the thing is, you could keep chickens locked up in a pen and keep them all safe. But the problem with that is then you have to feed them, you know. I mean, we still...
They don't graze as much.
Yeah, we do still buy, but they're much healthier when they can roam around and eat bugs and forage. And so we let our chickens free range around the farm. But with that comes the sacrifice every now and then. And tonight was not a good night. So.
Yeah. And they, I think they're better producers of eggs if they free range, right?
Yeah,
they're happier.
Yeah. Dude, you can see the color difference in a yolk of a chicken that's out free ranging versus one that's being just fed. And there's nothing wrong with feeding a chicken or any other animal grain, but same thing as us. We're healthier if we eat real food, if we eat a nice steak with a good salad, some natural stuff, versus if we eat some processed TV dinner out of box. You know what I mean? But when they can roam around and they can eat bugs and forage, dude, you could see the dark, rich yolk and you could taste it. So, and then
right.
Of course, when they're eating good stuff, they build a healthier bird. They make healthier eggs, and that comes to us. So, but the sacrifice is you do lose that danger of letting them roam around free. So it's what it is, man.
And I was so where we're at in northwestern Pennsylvania, we have a few predators for stuff because, you know, we're getting ducks and we're going to get geese with the ducks because if you raise geese with ducks, they become the protector of the flock.
Oh yeah.
And geese are mean, man.
Yeah, they are.
And so we're going to hand raise them so that they are used to us humans and aren't mean to us, because I'll take it out. If it's going to be mean, it's not going to be around. Right. But, we've got hawks. We have a lot of bald eagles where I'm at. They are thriving. I remember, wasn't it 25 years ago, bald eagles were kind of like endangered or like they were on the list or whatever.
Yep.
Not around here, man. They're everywhere. So we have hawks and eagles and, coyotes. Coyotes are everywhere. And then we have fox as well. And we have something, and we were talking about this before we were recording, and I'm curious if anybody out there, send us a message on Instagram or shoot us an email if you know of fisher cats. So it's a big weasel type. It's in the weasel family. They get massive, 4 or 5 foot long, very, very aggressive. And as Tom found out as he Googled it earlier, that they're one of the only predators to a porcupine. They're that mean. And so we have those, and those are just downright evil, man. They'll come in and just take out your whole flock for sport. And so it's not a good thing, but that's why I positioned where I'm going to put my quack shack for the ducks is right out my bedroom window where I can see it, and I can grab my 17 HMR from the closet here. And I'd like to get a night scope, honestly, just one, because it'd be cool, and 2 for that kind of thing. But so I do have a hawk that lives on our property. He perches up in a big tree over here, and so he's going to be licking his chops when we get those things out. But
oh yeah,
Yeah, so hopefully we can raise them with the geese, and apparently hawks won't attack geese, and so if there's geese in there, they'll leave them alone. Everything up to like a fox won't mess with a goose apparently. I don't know what it is. Yeah, because chickens run, right? They're big chickens, but goose will come at you, and so maybe there's something there. I don't know. I don't think foxes will mess with them. I might be wrong, but I know I wouldn't want to mess with them. But awesome. Well, before we get into today's guest, which I'm really, really excited about, just want to say thank you to the patron supporters. You guys are awesome. If you'd like to support us on Patreon, you can do so at patreon.com/Faith Talks Wood. And then give us a 5-star review on Apple. It goes a long way. And then prayer for the podcast, as always. We see this podcast as a ministry. But I also can't forget to say, if you are in the market for a new sander or sandpaper, anything sand related, not sand, but sanding related, head over to surfprep.com. You can use code FAITH, get 10% off, and it helps the podcast out. And so really appreciate Surf Prep Sanding for partnering with us here at Faith Talks Wood Podcast. And head on over there if you want to get your sanding needs. So with that being said, Tom, would you go ahead and introduce the guest on the podcast today?
Yeah, man. So I'm excited about this podcast. So today we have one of our listeners on, and I'd asked him about being on the podcast a while back, and he was like, well, right now I don't have a shop. I feel like I'm not a woodworker because I don't have a shop at this time. And I was like, yeah, but you love Jesus and you love woodworking. It doesn't matter if you have a shop at the moment, so we're kind of accustomed to having, people on the shop on the podcast that are working out of a current shop. But we got 2 of our listeners that I've invited on. One of them accepted our guest here tonight, and the other one hadn't yet. But just remember, this podcast is about your testimony. Your love of woodworking or making is secondary. That's just a skill that God's given us all. It's more about our love for Him. So, man, Skylan, welcome to the podcast, my friend. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, guys. I found the podcast after about 20 episodes or so. Went back, listened to the first episode, and by episode 2, it was instantly my favorite podcast out there. So I'm very excited to be on. So a little bit about me. I live near Charlotte, NC. I have been a big fan of the podcast ever since I found it. The podcast was on about episode 20 whenever I found it. Went back, listened to the first episode, and by episode 2, this was instantly my favorite podcast, and I've listened to every episode usually as soon as it drops. So a little bit about me. I live near Charlotte, NC. I work in manufacturing as a stamping specialist. Although probably about the time this podcast comes out, I will be transitioning over to our machine shop and will be a CNC machinist. So I enjoy Southern gospel music, NASCAR, and going to concerts and car shows.
Awesome. So you said NASCAR. In Tennessee, the second house that we lived at, we were a couple miles from National Super Speedway. I think that's what it's called. They had a 2 years ago. They brought a race for the one of the Cup races was at Nashville. And let me just tell you, I could hear every one of the engines.
Right. Those things are loud.
Yeah, I mean, we were bird shot. We were probably just a couple miles. It was about 8-minute drive to get there because you had to go down to the main road and out and around. But across the woods, it was right there. And you couldn't hear it too bad inside the house, but if you went outside, you could actually feel it. Like the ground would like say, you could hear it. And but it was funny the way the wind blew, you'd hear them and then you wouldn't hear them.
Yeah.
And then you'd hear them and you wouldn't hear them. And so I've never got the opportunity to go to a NASCAR event. Although I think it'd be pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, it's awesome. I went to Bristol for the first time last month, and it was awesome.
Yeah, man. So of all the tracks I have been to, I've been to Darlington, I've been to Bristol. Where else have I? Rockingham, Martinsville, Darlington in South Carolina. And by far, my favorite is Bristol. Like, so if you've never been to Bristol, Will, like, dude, it's one of the smaller tracks on the circuit, which to me is what makes it awesome because you could see the entire track. The stadium, like, you feel like you are climbing a mountain. The bleachers are so steep. But you're looking.
Wow.
I mean, when I was sitting in turn 3, and when they come around, literally you were looking right down into the car. So it's that steep of an embankment that you're looking through the window. You can see the driver. Of course, it has their mesh and all on there. But dude, that track is awesome, man. But you're talking about loud. Whoo,
Oh yeah.
You better have you some hearing protection on that track.
The loudest thing I've ever been to is Monster Trucks indoor Monster Jam, and that'll rock your brain, man.
Yeah.
But the NASCAR, I think it'd be cool to see. We don't have anything too close to us. Erie has Erie Super Speedway, but it's not NASCAR. I think it's like a lower tier. I don't know NASCAR racing that well, but we do have that. I'm not sure. I think there's one in the Poconos. Isn't there a track up there somewhere?
Oh yeah.
There's a 2.5 mile and it's triangle shape.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Interesting.
So I'm embarrassed to say this, but my mom has done 2 things that I'm insanely jealous of. What do y'all think they are?
Skydive?
No, she ain't that. She's a scaredy cat.
Oh, I don't know. Daytona 500.
So this year she went to the Daytona 500 and she went to Talladega. So my stepdad passed away a couple years ago, and my former next door neighbor, his spouse had passed away. Well, he was good friends with my stepdad, and he came by one day just to check on my mom, say, hey, I'm sorry about loss of Bubba, and anything you need, you just call me. Here's my phone number. And they kept running into each other, and, they're old. They're like, would you like to, like, just go have dinner just for fun, something? I'm tired of sitting at home all the time. And so my mom never cared a thing about racing, but the 2 of them, because they're old and either all their friends are dead or they're married and they don't have anybody to hang out with. And he invited her to go to a race.
Wow.
And so they went to the Darlington, I think Darlington first. I can't remember which one they went to first, but I'm like, well, Mama, who are you cheering for? And she's like, I cheered for the purple car today. I'm like, do you remember who that? And so she doesn't have a driver. She just shows up and says, well, today I'm going to go for the blue one, or the day. But
That's
she
hilarious.
loves it, man. It's funny, but I'm so jealous because I was like, I've never got to go to the Daytona 500, and I never got to go to Talladega, and those are like 2 of the main ones I would like to go to if other than, and I would actually like to go to Phoenix and Las Vegas as well. That'd be kind of cool. But what's your favorite track, Skylan?
So my favorite track that I've been to is Charlotte.
Yep.
Just since it's so close to home, easy driving distance. But here the last few years, it's just put on great racing. But going back to what you were talking about with the Daytona 500, I actually passed up on an opportunity to go to the 500 this year, and I'm so and I've been upset at myself all year
Man,
because of that.
that's such an opportunity, man. Oh, man.
Man.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I could sit here and talk about racing all night long, but
Well, I will say though, well, the racing's on my mind for a second. So I grew up. Anytime we would watch racing, I had a buddy growing up in like elementary school. His family were big NASCAR fans. Like their house was covered in Dale Earnhardt, right?
yeah.
And so that's who Dale Earnhardt, Petty, Jeff Gordon when he was getting going. You know, that kind of era is where I would watch it. And then Dale Earnhardt Jr. You know, I just saw something that said Junior's coming back.
Really?
So ever since he's retired from Cup at the end of 2017, he's ran like a one-off Xfinity race every year. And this year it was in Bristol, and he's kept on saying that this would probably be his last Xfinity race, but he's also started doing a few late model races each year.
Oh.
So he's running, I want to say it's the series finale race, and they're bringing back like his sponsor from the early 2000s.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Going like a retro design on the car.
Huh.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
I'll bet are. Now,
Interesting.
ironically, I saw Richard Petty race at Darlington when I was young.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm old, man. You're not old enough. But when me and my wife got married, my wife was a Dale Earnhardt fan, and I was a Tony Stewart fan. So we were always like battling. I like Tony Stewart and Bobby Labonte. They were
oh yeah, I remember
on
Bobby
the same
Labonte.
team back in the day, man. But
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
yeah. But like the racers that are out now, like other than Trudeau or something, like I couldn't name 10 racers that are out there now. I used to know them all, man. I was big. We watched every single Sunday. We had a group of us that would get together and we'd barbecue and watch the NASCAR race.
Now, North Carolina, isn't North Carolina like a hub for NASCAR?
Yeah, Charlotte. Yeah. And Charlotte,
Yeah.
I didn't mention that, but Charlotte's also a place. I've seen a night race there. It's pretty cool. And that's where a lot of the teams are based out of. So I think
Gotcha.
you got a few teams that are based out of like Vegas and Phoenix area, but I'd probably say 90% of them are out of Charlotte area or North Carolina in general area. Because I quit watching NASCAR after this. We're going to get on to the topic of the podcast, but it made me upset. So used to, because NASCAR was born in the South, man. Nobody heard of NASCAR in California and Arizona and Las Vegas. It was all in the Carolinas, Georgia, Alabama, Virginia. I mean, and we had Rockingham that had 2 races. Martinsville had 2 races. Darlington had 2 races. All these smaller tracks. And then they started taking them away and moving them to these other big tracks on the other side of the country. And after that, I kind of lost interest in it. So now I just kind of watch occasionally. I don't have the same interest level as I did back in the day, but it's still fun though. When you see them cars go 200 mile an hour, it's like, man. So,
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
all right. So we had you on the podcast to talk about Jesus, not NASCAR.
Well, I do have something to ask Skylan, because him and I were chatting before because Tom was fighting foxes. And Skylan, you work for a really cool company that everybody on this podcast knows who it is. And I think that's as far as, the woodworking world, not only do you enjoy woodworking and you grew up doing it, I mean, we'll talk about that later, but you work for a pretty prominent brand that makes stuff for woodworking. You talk about kind of what you do a little bit and what that is and the company and stuff.
Yeah, so I work for Bloom. We make the undermount soft close drawer slides and the self-closing hinges. So in my current role with being a stamping specialist, I'm involved in the production of the undermount drawer runners.
Dude, that is cool, man. So I think next time we're installing some cabinet drawers, we could sit there and wonder, man, did Skylan make this? That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So what will you do? You're going to move to the machine shop. What will that look like as far as bloom and that process?
So I will be making parts for our production machines.
Oh, okay.
So I'll be making the parts that are used to make the.
So you're making the dies.
Yep.
That's cool. Yep. Manufacturing just fascinates me. Like, you ever watch that show back when I had cable? How it was made, or
how it's made?
Man, I just, it fascinates me how everything. I worked in a cotton mill growing up in South Carolina, and so I ran the blending line, and so these big bales of cotton would come in to the room below me. They would shoot it up to me. I would then take big bales of polyester, blend them together. They'd leave my room and come out in the other room where they get spun into the first phase of yarn. Then it would go from that. 3 of them would get spun together to make yarn. Then it'd go over to the loom shop where they make fabric. Then it'd go over to the shop where they made T-shirts. And just like the whole process of how it went from cotton in the field in our town all the way to being a T-shirt, just absolutely fascinates me. But same thing with drawer slides. But
yeah, there's lots of process and lots of, even the stamping. There's lots of steps. It's not just one stamp that happens. It's a progressive stamp. So that's pretty cool. So Skylan, I know you grew up in the church and stuff. Can you tell us about your upbringing, about about growing up in the church and finding your own faith and what that looks like in your life?
So, as you mentioned, Will, I grew up in the church. I've been attending church for as long as I can remember, and I got saved at the very early age of 3. Really, church and my faith in Jesus is all I've ever known, and I'm very thankful for that God called me at such an early age, and that I've just always had that relationship with Him. One thing that I want to make a more of a conscious effort of is like spend more time reading, diving in, and just learning and growing. Like, even though I've had a relationship with Him for all these years, life has had its up and downs. Like, and as you guys know, just because we're Christians, it doesn't make us immune to hard times, to challenges. So I've had like my fair share of high moments, but also really low moments too. And just throughout my life, God's opened some doors that without Him, they either would not have opened, or it would have been much harder on my own. One of those doors that I think has led me to where I'm at today is He opened up the opportunity to allow me to go to a magnet high school. So it was still in the public school system, but it was like a much smaller group. There was like hundreds, if not thousands, of applicants a year just trying to get 150 spots or something like that. That door opened, so I was able to go for computer engineering. Growing up, I've always enjoyed technology and things of that nature, so being able to focus on that while also getting a great general education, I think that helped me get to where I'm at Bloom, because I was able to go through Bloom's apprenticeship program right out of high school. They sent me through an associate's program and gave me all the on-the-job training, gave me the basic foundation all the way up to where I'm at now. Like, without God opening door for high school. Without him helping me through the apprenticeship selection process, I would not be where I'm at without him.
Yeah, absolutely. Amen. So the CNC operator, what people may not know, CNC is computer numeric control. And so you'll be working on the computer, will you guys write the G code, or will you, it's already kind of in place and you just make sure it does what it's supposed to, right?
So, like there's a dedicated person in the shop that does all the programming.
Yep. Awesome. That's good. So you said you enjoyed computer work. Is that like, have you always like tinkered with computers and IT and stuff like that? As you know, listen to the podcast, that's what I do for a living. I'm in IT, so just curious on that.
Yeah. Yeah. I just remember like getting a laptop whenever I was young. Just always enjoyed messing with it. And then my uncle even had a really old desktop that ran Windows 95. And
Oh yeah.
I would get on there and I would mess with that. But I grew up in the Windows XP era. Windows 7 is still my favorite Windows operating system.
Yeah. Hey, 7 was XP laid a foundation because a lot of bugs got pushed out of it, a lot of fixes, and it was a workhorse. A lot of people were skeptical of Windows 7, but then it ended up being kind of the standard for Windows, and then Vista was a big flop, and then 8 was kind of a flop too. And so right now we're Windows 10 and Windows 11 is going end of life, and so in my world we're going to be pushing a Windows 11 out. And so, but I remember those days. Windows 7, it's solid. It wasn't too resource heavy. It ran well. So that's awesome.
So I happen to know that you also told me you played an instrument, and that you play that some in church. And I know that from your Instagram, you got a huge passion for gospel music. So tell us a little bit about the music, how God uses you for that in the church, and how your passion for that came about.
Yes. I think the passion for music really started back in 6th grade when I had the opportunity to start taking band. Like at the time, I thought, yeah, this is cool. Try it out. Really started enjoying it, and then a few years later, when I was in 8th grade, 14 at the time, the music pastor at my church, who is now the lead pastor, he invited me to play on Easter Sunday when I was 14. We both thought it would just be a one-off chance for me to experience what it was like, and then just that whole experience from the rehearsal to Sunday, just to play with a group of musicians that were way better than I was. It was just so much fun. I enjoyed it, and immediately, right after service, like I knew I had spring break from school, so I immediately asked him if I could join in the next week, since I would have a week to practice. And then that just led to 2-3 weeks, and then I saw I saw an opportunity to help him, like with the platform setups, just resetting after Sundays and things. So I took interest in that. One of the sound guys saw me helping out there, so he started training me on how to run sound. So I play on Sunday mornings, and then on Wednesdays and at other occasions. And then it was probably about at one of the lowest points in my life, whenever my dad passed away. Whenever I was 15, a buddy of mine at church, very shortly after that, he came to me and said, that he had tickets to a Jason Crab show here in the area, and so I really didn't know who Jason Crab was. So I went home, looked him up, and then at that point he had just released a new album, and on that album there were two songs that instantly spoke to me. It was "He Knows What He's Doing" and "He Won't Leave You There." Once I heard both of those songs, like if those songs weren't for anybody else when they were released, they were for me, and that's what helped get me through that very difficult time. And it took a while, but I feel like God used music during that time to help me. So that Jason Crab concert was probably my first experience of what Southern gospel music was. And just as I got older, I just absolutely fell in love with it. Just from Gaither Vocal Band, Brand Free Insurance, Karen Peck and New River. Like, I can't get enough of it. And Tom, you might even remember my post from QC last month, the biggest gospel music event that there is, and like that had been a bucket list item for a few years. I went, and it was just the absolute best 4 days I've ever had. Like, just to be able to walk around, meet different artists, get some pictures, and hear all the best music there is. It was just awesome.
That's amazing. I saw the Gaither Vocal Band in Greenville, South Carolina, at the auditorium years ago. But man, they've been around for a while.
I went and saw them back in, I think it was April or May this year for the first time, and man, they did not disappoint. And they have another concert coming up. I think it's in middle of December. I'm more than likely going to go check that one out too.
That's awesome. I've actually heard of Jason Crab. Back in the day when we had CDs, some of the kids listening might not know, although I think our listener base is a little bit older, but we used to get, it was like Wow Hits or something. Yep. It was like Christian music. And there was a song on there from him, I think, years ago. And he's had some newer stuff that I've heard that I really appreciate. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Being a musician myself and drummer, and some of that Southern gospel stuff is really fun. So
that's funny. You talk about CDs, man. My first stereo that I got,
8-track,
bro. I had 8-track on it, a cassette player, and a record player, and a radio, all in one unit. I was the coolest kid on the block, man. I mean, I would go in there and get my dad's 8-tracks and play them, and I had cassettes, had me a few old albums, but
oh man.
Speaking of CDs, I've always been like old soul, and so like I actually miss a CD player in my vehicle, because I have some CDs that are not on Spotify, that are not on Apple Music.
Oh yeah.
But I can't use, and I bought some of the USB drives that basically have the CDs on them, and
right.
3 of the ones I bought, my truck won't recognize them, and I don't know why.
Oh yeah, you messaged me about that.
Yep.
I think it was I think I said it was probably something with the file format on how your truck reads the MP3s, or it could be the naming convention or something. But yeah, the MP3 playing through a USB in vehicles, it can be kind of sketchy. Sometimes they'll work and sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's funny. I used to have. Okay, Tom, I'm not that old. Now, I did grow up with cassettes, so I'm at least that old, right? In the 90s, we had cassettes, and I had a Walkman, right?
Oh yeah.
But then I got the Walkman brand CD one.
Yeah.
That was supposed to be like skip proof. It was like made like a bomb. You could drop it and it would still play the music. But But in my car, my first car was a 94 Honda Accord, and it had a Pioneer head unit in there with a CD player. And I would have on both visors the things for all the CDs, and then I had something in the middle console with CDs in there, and so I would switch out CDs. Although, to be honest, in that era when I first started driving a vehicle, there's a band that's local to where I'm at. They're a Christian rock band called Red. They were really big in the mid 2000s, got huge up there. You heard the name Skillet, right? They were up there with them. And so they're local to here. And so very much kind of close to my heart because they were the local band. And so I'd probably listen to them 95% of the time. Actually, I listened to them so much that their first 3 albums I can play drums to by memory.
Oh, wow.
Just because I listened to it so much back in the day. But yeah, that's pretty cool, man. So you said you went to a big gospel music festival? That had to have been fun.
Yeah, it was awesome. Like, pretty much anybody and everybody that you can think of, with like a few exceptions. There was a few notable people that weren't there, but just about every big name was there. And then like the evening concerts, they would start at 5:30 and they would go to 11:15 at night.
Oh yeah. So who's your favorite gospel?
So my favorite, like, I like the Gold City, if you know them, Triumphant. They're some of my favorites.
Okay.
But then I'm friends with a group called Heart to Heart.
Okay.
I don't know if you've ever heard of them.
I've not.
But they are definitely way up on my list too. They're just a great group of people.
Yeah. Awesome, man. That's pretty cool. Man, that's awesome. So, Skylan, you were talking about you got a little bit of shop talk. So what you got going on?
So, a project I'm going to be working on later this week is way my church's platform is set up. There's like different levels for the choir loft, and we have some like stage frame and stage boxes that will help like level up a step and like allow us to have a deeper surface if we need it. Those are like structurally and how they look, they're in pretty rough shape. So I'm going to take the carpet off of them, take them apart, and then I've actually just bought a Craig pocket hole. I think it's the K4 jig, one of the older ones.
Yeah,
Yep.
Well, it's one of the older ones. I'm not a big fan of the new like 720 Pros that they have. Like I've watched some reviews on them, and it seemed like they're building more with more plastic.
Right.
And so while I could, I went ahead and got one of the older K4 jigs. So I'm gonna use that, and I bought some of Nick's Boss Dog wood glue. So I'm gonna work on getting those restored this weekend.
I like it. Yeah, cool. We got to meet Nick at Workbench Con, and his glue is the only glue I use in my shop. Both his super glue and his wood glue. Use both of it in the shop. So that's awesome, man. I'm excited. Are you going to do it? Post anything on Instagram or anything about it?
Maybe. We'll see.
Okay.
See, and that's why most of my stuff is like that. I like functional woodworking. Wish I had time to do more finesse woodworking. But yeah, I love building stuff that's functional, where you get to see it actually being used on a daily or weekly basis. And so very cool, man. Very cool. What about you, Will? Yeah. What you got going on? I know I've seen some new labels and stuff on your new wax. So you got that all ready to ship now?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've been shipping it. We launched the new shop wax. Skylan has some coming to him. He ordered some from me. Appreciate that. It's been good. It's the little things in life that are exciting. I actually enjoy using the shop wax almost more than my wood honey. Not because it's better, it's just different.
Yep.
Used to using something so much. But I had somebody recommend getting a stamp for my packages so I can like stamp my logo on the packages.
Yep.
And so I bought a stamp, and it's just kind of exciting. Like, the shop wax, if somebody just orders shop wax, I have these little 4x6 padded envelopes that I'll stick it in. And then I can stamp my logo on the envelope, and it just looks official. It's the little things in life, right?
Yeah, it is, man.
Yeah. I haven't got to do too much in the shop. I have worked on the Quack Shack a little bit. I'm dragging my feet on that because some of the next steps for it, I'm going to have to spend some money. And I'm just like T111, I'm going to need 4 sheets of that. It's $50 a pop for the good T111 pre-primed. And then I'm going to have to buy roofing. And I'm just going to do metal roof. Yep. I may just do kind of the, not cheaper, but just like corrugated, it's just a chicken or duck coop. It doesn't have to be, funny enough though, I joined a Facebook group for duck owners. Look, judge me all you want. I joined a Facebook group for duck owners, and people post the pictures of their duck coops, and they're putting these things in shacks. I'm building the Duckingham Palace over here, and I kind of feel bad. I'm like, man, do I need to? My wife's like, yeah, you kind of do overdo it when you do that kind of stuff. So, anyways, they're gonna have the nicest duck coop on this side of the Mississippi for sure. So that's gonna be good. But yeah, not too much else in the shop. I had somebody reach out, wanted some ornaments made by Christmas. The problem I have with that
is what I saw. I haven't only been on Instagram like twice in the last month. It feels like I just haven't had time. But when I got on there, I did see like your whole table was full of, it looked something that was laser engraved. It looked like and cut out, but I didn't really, I couldn't read it, tell what it said.
Oh,
were those Christmas on it or something? No,
I don't think so. But the problem is they don't really know what they want. And so if you come to me and say, hey, this is what I want, then I can be, oh yeah, hey, I can make that. But coming to me and just saying, yeah, I think I'd like some ornaments and that. So not too much out in the shop lately. I had to order some more material to make more wax. And so that'll be in tomorrow, and I'll be out there crushing out some more shop wax. People like it. It's a lower barrier to entry as far as finish is concerned because it's not as expensive. But it lasts a long time, and it's, used for anything. And so surprising. One of the things that was surprising, I don't know if I told this on the last podcast episode, but my wife was at a craft fair a couple weekends ago. And so usually I'll have a cutting board or something and whatnot. Well, this time my wife's like, hey, why don't you bring some of your finish? And I just gotten the labels for the wax. And so I brought some cans of wax and a couple jars of finish. And what, if I didn't sell out of everything, I'm like, what in the world? And people were eating up the shop wax. They're like, this is really good. This is going to work. Like, one lady bought it to do her knife handles for her kitchen knives. She's had them for years and she wants to restore them. One guy was a woodworker, somebody else. It's just like all this different stuff. And it was like at a craft fair, people bought finish. I was surprised. And I didn't bring that much. I was just like, I'm going to bring some to throw it on the table or whatever. And by like lunchtime, I was like, oh, wow, I wish I had some more. I almost ran home because we only lived from that craft fair like 10 miles away. And I thought, I could run home real quick. But I didn't. But so just been doing that. I traveled for work last week, as those listening to this episode. If you listen to last week's episode and my audio was weird, it's because I was doing it from my cell phone in the hotel room of downtown Nashville. So there's been a lot of traveling, trying to just get back to some normality. Even even getting back to work today, it was like, I felt like rushing, trying to get in through emails and all the stuff. And so ready to just get back to some normality.
So I was actually gonna ask you, Will, about your shop wax. So I've got my great grandfather's old Craftsman table saw. Right now, since I don't have a dedicated shop space, it's just in storage, and it has cast iron top.
Right.
Would the shop wax be good to like protect it?
Yeah, absolutely. Is there any surface rust on it?
I haven't laid eyes on it in over a year now.
Okay.
So I'm going to tell you, in North Carolina with the humidity there, you're probably going to have some, but you could get some WD-40 and some Brillo pads. You get it all off. I tell you, what's his name? I'm having a brain collapse here. The thumb guy. Been on YouTube.
The Stumpy Nubs?
Stumpy Nubs. Thank you. I just couldn't get it to come out. He has a fantastic video on there removing wax. And ironically,
rust.
Drew, removing rust. Drew Witt does as well. But if you got rust, go in there, do that. And then I wax all of my cast iron surfaces. That's how.
Yep.
And it does two things. One, it protects them, and then it makes your boards just slide across it nice and smooth, man.
Yeah. So
nice.
what I would do, Skylan, I would make sure the surface rust is off of it, and then you'll take in the package. You have some white Scotch-Brites that I'd sent. You take a little. You can cut off a little piece of that Scotch-Brite. You don't need much. Get some wax on there, and then buff it on. And then come back with a clean towel and just buff it right off. And that'll put a nice surface of wax on there, and that'll help protect it from the humidity and all the stuff that North Carolina brings. So, yeah absolutely.
It's older Craftsman. It's about the size of a job site saw, but it's got that cast iron top.
Yeah.
And my great-grandfather, whenever he had it in his shop, he built like a purpose-built extension off to the right side so you can rip wider sheets. So, but the way he fastened it on there, me and my buddy whenever we moved it, we had to cut the extension literally off of it. So, in the future, hopefully, whenever I have a shop again, what I'm thinking is building is either totally recreating that extension wing, or maybe even make it even bigger and have it as like an outfeed area too.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that'll just be depending on how big my shop is.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's awesome. But yeah, man. Yeah, you throw some wax on there, and that'll help protect it. And if you got any leather boots, put it on that too. The wax is pretty universal, so it's kind of cool to see this, how it restores all kinds of stuff. But Tom, what about you? Any sawdust in the recent past?
Dude, I got a little bit of shop time, and I've got tomorrow. I'll be flushing out my entire irrigation system and basically kind of bringing the farm to a close for the season. So, and tomorrow I'm actually going to look at a commission job. A lady wants me to build some bookcases around her fireplace. So I'm on tomorrow at 10 a.m. to go and measure that job. But I got some French cleat wall done in my shop this week. And then my wife wants me to build some floating shelves in the bathroom. So I'm excited to actually have some shop time. So it's going to be fun to get in there and make some sawdust.
Have you made floating shelves before?
Huh?
Have you made floating shelves? Yeah. Which hardware do you use when you make them?
Well, it depends. So if I make them thick enough that I'll make my own bracket out of plywood. But these are going to be so narrow. I'm like, no. And I built the cabinets in that bathroom and face framed them out of poplar. And so I want it all matched. So basically this could be a poplar cutting board hanging on the wall. Think about it. I mean, I'm just going to do a poplar glue up because I don't have any. If I had some 8-quarter, I would just make them solid, but I'm just going to work with what I got and they'll look fantastic. But there's some cheap brackets that you could get off Amazon for small shells. I would not trust them if I was doing something where I was going to put some serious weight on it. But for this is literally going to be my wife and daughter putting something, some little decorative knick-knack. Probably one shelf will have a jar with Q-tips and a roll of toilet paper or something. I don't know what they'll put on it, but it's not going to be anything heavy. So these steel brackets come and you just drill a hole for the pipe into the shelves. So you put 2 of them and then you take your router and I'll route out the back so that way when they slide on, the brackets actually recessed up inside. Yep. And you won't see it. But yeah, I would not use them if I were doing some big, 12-inch by 8-foot solid. They're not that good of quality. But for something, these are 22 inches wide, and my wife wants them 7 inches deep. So they're not going to be super heavy. Yeah. Yep. And it's just, it'll have some little decorative knick-knack stuff sitting on it. So
yeah, if you look way back on my Instagram reels, you'll see a reel where I made a floating shelf out of a slab of walnut. Mm-hmm. Gorgeous. It wasn't that big of a shelf. It was like 20 inches wide or something, maybe. I mean, we're very big. But they're nicer than that. I got them from Woodcraft. Mm-hmm. But the brackets that you drill down in and then you recess out with the router, and they worked well. For what it was, they did well. I made sure to put them right into the stud, and
there's a company, their brackets are very expensive, but they are insanely strong and really good quality, and they're Christian owned. It's called Shepherd Brackets. They are nice. I've made some out of them, but I'm putting 4 shells in each bathroom, and I can't afford.
How many bathrooms do you have?
I got 2.
Okay.
That's 8 shells, but the cheap brackets I'm using, it cost me $26 for all these little individual ones, but the Shepherd ones would have been like $44 a shelf, but they hold a lot of weight. They're really, really nice quality. If I were doing a big shelf, that's what I would go with, because I
know a lot of guys will cut out the drywall and go right on the stud. Yeah,
you could do that because then you don't have the flex of the drywall. But just depends on how much weight, whether you need to do that or not. But for toilet paper,
it'll be fine.
What I'm doing will be perfectly fine.
Awesome.
Yeah, man.
One other story. Whenever I first got into working, so I was like 5 or 6, in the shop. My grandfather and my great grandfather were in the shop. I wanted to be in the shop too. So they gave me a scrap piece of wood and had me at the drill press, and I'm just going to town drilling holes. thing is the funnest thing ever, and they're behind me at the workbench working on an actual project.
Yeah, and Will puts a bunch of nails in a board for his son to hammer while he's at the shop. So
I've got a dedicated 4x4. I'll start a bunch of nails in it, and I'll hand him the little hammer, and he'll sit there all afternoon, man, and just tap away just a little bit at a time at each one of them nails. So, but trying to get him used to being in the shop,
But see, I think that stuff is great because what it does, number one, it gives them hand-eye coordination, much better than if they were sitting inside playing on an iPad, Yeah. And then it's giving them that taste because, once they learn that, now they get another year older and you teach them a little something else. Well, then by the time they're your age and my age, imagine what they could do. you know?
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
I wish I would have stayed consistently into woodworking. Like, I liked it as a kid, and then I didn't get back into it until I was a little bit older. I was about 15. But like, if I would have stayed in it, I could have been a lot further along in my skills, and I could have had countless more memories with my great grandfather in the shop.
Yeah, I know. I have the same thoughts that looking back that I wish I would have spent more time in the shop. But you can't go back. All you can do is be thankful for what you do had and the memories you have. So, but you're young, man. You got tons of time. So, you kids, man.
Kids. Hey, I got a sister your age, man. Watch it.
I know, man. Y'all make me feel so old, but I'm good. I'm good with it, man.
Most of my friends are your age, Will, and further up. Like, I don't have many friends my age. Like, most of my friends are like in 30s, 40s, and I even go to the senior adult meetings at my church and help them run sound and just enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
hang out with my friends.
Yeah, I was always an older soul too. I liked hanging out with the older kids and the more mature ones. I always thought the kids my age were dumb. Even now, kids my age are dumb.
That's
like people my age, I just feel like I don't fit in.
Yeah.
My
daughter's 21, and most, all the girls that are in her Bible study group that she goes and hangs out with, like tonight, they're just having a get together. I don't know if they went bowling or do what. I think the youngest girl is 25 or 26. The rest of them are all the group is up to 29, but most of them are like 8-9 years older than my daughter, but that's the one she hangs out with. So, cool, man. Well, Skylan, where can everybody, I know you're on Instagram. Are you on anything else? What's your channel there where people can get hold of you?
But my handle on Instagram is just my name, Skylan Johnson.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome, man.
My Instagram is just mainly music and NASCAR.
A lot of NASCAR.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. We like it, man. Well, we really appreciate you coming on and sharing with us. And we had some good conversation. I think this is the first NASCAR conversation we've had. So
it has.
That's good.
I think so. Yeah.
And I think we probably have a lot of listeners that are NASCAR fans. So I'm sure that it's going to resonate well. And we appreciate your heart for the ministry and for what God's doing in your life. And man, congrats on your promotion in the machine shop. That's exciting. Allow God to work through you in that and continue to be the light in where you're at. And now I know that, when I get my Bloom undermount slides, when I'm feeling like I want to spend some money, they're expensive. I know that they're coming from a friend. So it's awesome.
There you go. Yeah, I've enjoyed the show. I've enjoyed the chance to share. Looking back on my notes, I had a lot more I was prepared to share, but
that's okay.
But I enjoyed the talk. I didn't anticipate me just mentioning NASCAR at the beginning would end up in like a 10-minute NASCAR conversation.
Hey,
it's all good, man. We have a very flexible format here. We kind of just see where the conversation goes. Last week it was about 3D printing. This week it's about NASCAR.
There you go.
Yeah, it goes all over the place. So awesome. Well, appreciate you, Skylan. Well, until next week, I'm Will from Flatwood Works,
and I'm Tom from Mountain Valley Maker.